Welcome to Management 359. This is Dr. Ricardo Valerdi. Let's get started. What I'd like to begin with is a brief review of the course and the syllabus and the D2L page to get you ready for week number 1. So a few questions that you might have are as follows. Should I be in this course? Is this course difficult? Who is the TA? When are the office hours, etc. So I'm going to go through all of these things just to get you oriented in week 1. The first question, should you be in this course? Well, the basic answer comes down to whether you've taken the necessary prerequisites, economics and accounting, and whether you are comfortable with some basic algebra. The other part of the answer is whether you are comfortable with Microsoft Excel and possibly the programming language R. Even if you're not comfortable with either of these things, if you're willing to put in the time to learn them, then you should be okay. I'm guessing most of you are familiar with Microsoft Excel. Some of you may or may not know the language R, and that's okay. We'll teach you what you need to know. Now, in terms of the difficulty of the course, well, this comes down to really 3 types of contributors to your grade. The first one are all the readings and homework. And my best guess is you'll spend about 4 hours a week doing this. The second component are the video lectures that you're going to watch from me and the expert interviews that you'll listen to. Now, these are audio only interviews, but they're actually provided through YouTube. So even though it might be a video that you're actually playing, it's only the audio that you need to be aware of. And all the graded assignments and quizzes will take about 5 hours per week. And finally, the project at the end of the term, this is a 7-week term, will take probably about 20 hours over a period of about 2 weeks. So I think this is a pretty standard 300 level course at the University of Arizona, but it is accelerated in terms of this being a 7-week course instead of an entire semester in duration. Now, the teaching assistant for this course is Jake Gladding, and here is his email address. I will also send you all an email with his contact information. He is available for questions that you might have related to homework assignments or grading or related things. But Jake and I will also be hosting office hours on a conference tool called Zoom. And this information will be provided to you in a future email so that you know when and how to connect with us through Zoom. The course textbook is Mathletics, and it's written by a professor from Indiana University and most recently University of Houston, Wayne Winston. So when Professor Winston was teaching at Indiana University, he had a student in his MBA class by the name of Mark Cuban. Some of you may know that name because he is the founder of Dell Computers and then subsequently purchased the Dallas Mavericks and is well known on television for being one of the judges and investors on Shark Tank. And naturally, Professor Winston eventually became an advisor on basketball analytics to the Dallas Mavericks. You'll also hear from Professor Winston in one of the expert interviews early on in the course. Now, he is pictured on the top left, Professor Winston. You'll hear a interview from him, and then immediately next to him is Mr. David Tapia from the New York Yankees. These two gentlemen have been generous enough to share some time and thoughts with us, and these are the first 2 expert interviews that you will listen to in week number 1. There are other experts that you'll hear about in the future that range from people in academia, people working for leagues or conferences, former professional players, but also entrepreneurs. And I think from each of these people, you can learn a variety of things that will help you get a better understanding of the sports analytics industry and how analytics is used by each of them. So make sure that you take good notes when you're listening to these interviews because they will help you complete your homework assignments, but they will also appear on the weekly quizzes, which you won't have to worry about until week 2. But make sure that you take good notes and you get the essence of what each presenter is trying to communicate. Now, regarding homework number 1, in this case, you have to be aware of the first deadline, which is Thursday, August 23rd. The homework has 3 parts. The first part involves you watching a video with me demonstrating how to analyze some data from the Arizona Diamondbacks, our local Major League Baseball team. Once you watch the video and have enough of a comfort level to do your own analysis, you need to then submit your own prediction for 3 future games of the Arizona Diamondbacks that are going to happen in the next weekend. So you need to submit these predictions on Thursday together with the rest of the homework assignment, and these will be due before the actual games take place. And then we'll have a little competition to see which student in the class gets closest predictions to the actual attendance of these games. And we'll know very soon because the attendance is reported within 24 hours of the game happening. So that takes care of part 1. Part 2 requires you to watch another video where I share with you some thoughts about what it is to ask a statistical question. And that's an important fundamental building block in this course because you need to be able to word things in a way that are going to benefit from data analytics. So this gets you started in terms of being able to do this, and in the homework you actually demonstrate that you've learned the concept by writing your own statistical questions. And part 3, of course, the 2 experts that I mentioned before, Dr. Winston and Mr. David Tapia, and I need you to provide to me 2 key takeaways. So 2 important things that you learn from each of the interviews. So this results in a total of 4 key takeaways in order to get full credit for part 3 of the homework. There will be a place in D2L where the homework can be uploaded and submitted for parts 2 and 3. Of course, part 1, you will need to submit your own prediction via a Google survey using the link provided in the homework assignment. The grading criteria for the course is pretty straightforward. The elements that I mentioned before, there are homeworks, there are quizzes, there's 1 exam and 1 final project. And you'll see the weighting here. 15% of the grade are homework assignments, 15% are quizzes, 30% is the exam, and last but not least, the majority of your grade is based on the final project. So don't underestimate how much effort needs to go into 40% of your grade on the final project. So you can accumulate quite a bit of points throughout the course, but the meat of it comes down to the exam, which is 30%, and the project, which is 40%. And like most courses at the high school or college level, there's a grading scheme that defines what an A, B, C, D, and E grades look like. This is pretty standard material, probably no surprises to any of you. Now, the last question you might have is whether it's okay to take this course if you don't like baseball. You'll notice from the cover of this book there are baseballs, footballs, and basketballs. And these are 3 of the sports that this particular author happens to focus on. So the answer to the question is yes, It's okay to take this course even if you don't like baseball. However, we will focus on baseball initially because there are a lot of important lessons to be learned from that sport because they are decades ahead of other sports in terms of their analytics maturity. So it might feel like it's a little baseball heavy at the beginning, but fear not because we are going to be talking about other sports as the course goes on. Now, the next thing that I'd like to talk to you about is the D2L site for this course. D2L, as many of you know, is the course management system for many of the courses at the U of A, and it stands for Desire to Learn. So from the landing page, once you log on to D2L and you select the Management 359 course, you'll see this screen. Where we'll begin is the Content tab on the top, which is located right next to Course Home. So I'm going to click on the Content tab just to get you oriented on where to find the materials for week 1. Now, the best place to scroll to are the learning modules, which initially will be shown as a, will be shown as a set of items, in this case 124 items to complete throughout the course. So when you click on the learning modules, you'll be taken to this screen which defaults to the first week. And in the first week, we're going to only complete the items under the first inning. So when you click on first inning, that orients you on all the content that is necessary and relevant for week 1. And it's organized in a specific sequence so that you work on things from top to bottom. And you'll see that some of these things are videos, some of them are Word documents, and some of them are surveys that you need to complete. So as you go through the overview for each week, you're going to notice the specific instructions that highlight everything you need to do and their respective deadline. The other thing that I want to show you is where to find the course syllabus. So again, clicking on content, the second menu says syllabus and course schedule. And these are extremely important things to know about because they have all the criteria, all the detailed criteria, some of which I have described. So the difference is the syllabus follows your standard university syllabus format, and the course schedule goes in on a week-by-week basis and tells you what you need to do for that week. So let's look at both of these documents at a time. The syllabus itself, you'll see, is you can either watch look at the document within the browser, or you can download the Word file and save it onto your computer. I won't go through all the details on the syllabus, but the task that you should think about immediately is reading this in detail. It talks about the prerequisites, the learning outcomes, and the first thing that I want to point out is the book for this class. You've seen a photo of it before. It's called Mathletics. The version that was published in 2009 is what we will be using. I believe it's the only edition that's been published. You might be able to find this book online, or I'm sure you can find it on your favorite website for purchasing books for the university. There are some additional supplemental readings that I will be referencing, but you do not need to purchase these. I will be providing excerpts that are necessary as we cover these topics. Another thing to point out is the required software. What's needed for this course is Microsoft Excel and R. Now, in most cases, most computers already have Microsoft Excel installed, but what we're going to do is we're going to add the Analysis Tool Pack, which is a free add-on that's provided within Excel, but it's usually not installed in the default version of Microsoft Excel. So I'm going to explain on how to install this add-on that should be available to you for free. The R programming language is also free, but it does require some installation, and I will provide videos to walk you through those steps. I already covered the workload expectations, and this is again under the premise that this is a 7-week accelerated course. So if you're going to miss a week of class, it's going to be very difficult to stay current. So please let me know if you run into any issues as we talk about the next few weeks and all the relative workload. Now I wanted to point out that because it's a compressed 7-week course, I don't recommend working ahead of schedule because these modules have been designed specifically for everybody to be working together and everybody be taking the quizzes, exams, and working on final projects in sync. So this will facilitate communication across the entire course between the TA, myself, and all of you. We will have virtual office hours, I mentioned before, using the Zoom tool, and you will be provided with more details on how to do this in the future. But this will give the opportunity for those of you who are located outside of Tucson or cannot come into campus the opportunity to contact us and talk to us in real time. For those of you who might be in the Tucson area, we might provide some opportunities to meet in person as times allow. Okay, to review, there are interviews for you to listen to. You need to do 2 of these in week 1 from Wayne Winston and David Tapia. Homework. Each homework assignment has a very specific grading criteria that will be provided to you in the instructions. Remember that homework number 1 has 3 parts. Each of those parts is graded separately, and then all the points are added up to result in 3 points for each homework assignment, which is equivalent to 3% of your grade. The quizzes will be taken through the D2L site, and they will be available on the day that you need to take care of them in the learning modules area of D2L. And then there is 1 exam about 3/4 of the way through the course is when we will be doing the exam, and this will be done through Examity, which is an online proctoring environment that most of you have probably used, and if you haven't, we will provide all the instructions that you need to be able to do that with confidence. Finally, the paper. The requirement is for a minimum of 3, possibly 4 pages, but I'm more interested in word count instead of page length. And your task is to analyze some sports data. And I will be providing you with some examples of what students have done in this class in the past. But remember, this final paper is worth 40% of your grade. So you need to be planning accordingly. Okay, so that's the syllabus. Let me point you to the other document, which was here under the admin syllabus and course schedule. The course schedule, like I said, is a little bit more detailed week by week summary of what needs to be done. So you'll see, for instance, in week 1, which ranges from 8:20 to 8:24, covers only the first inning. So here's a summary of the contents that are the focus of this week, and then here's a checklist of what you need to do and by when. And whenever these dates are marked, the assumption is that the deadline is midnight on that day. Okay, so I'm hoping that we can get everything done between Monday and Thursday. That's why I annotated the weeks as or the deadlines as being Thursday. That way, Friday we can sort of use as a buffer day if necessary. But my goal is for you to give you enough work to stay busy, probably at least 4 days of the week, and be done with this by Thursday or the latest Friday. So use this as a guide. It's a very detailed summary of the entire course. I advise you to review it in detail, and if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out. Now, the last thing I want you to be aware of is the Getting to Know You survey. So back in the content section of the course, I'm going to go back to the learning modules and week 1. One of the things that I'd like you to do in the first inning in week 1 is fill out a survey to let us know a little bit about you. And this is about a 5-minute time commitment. It's got some basic information about whether you've taken online courses, what your major is, and what your academic standing is. But also I'm interested in your specific focus on sports. So here are a variety of options for you to select, and also I'd like to know your opinion on who the greatest athlete is of all time and why they are the greatest athlete. So there are a few other inventory things like your level of knowledge in sports analytics and whether or not you've seen the movie or read the book Moneyball. If you haven't, I highly recommend spending some time as soon as possible to watch the movie. That's the faster way. I don't recommend trying to read the book immediately because it will distract you from other objectives of the course. But definitely, if you can rent that movie or borrow it from somebody, I highly recommend it. And it'd be good to know your level of familiarity in math classes, with computers, and also what your focus is in terms of learning outcomes for this course. And like I said, some of you are local to Tucson, some of you are not. It would be nice to know how far or close you're located to town to determine whether we do any in-person local events in the near future. That does it for this particular video. I wish you the best of luck in the course, and we will be in touch. Ciao.